anywhere you'd like to talk.
All right, China. Cryptocurrency, what they're doing.
That's my safe word, by the way.
Okay, good. What they're doing, or cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it'll kill any.
Good to know for later for us. Go ahead.
Cryptocurrency in China.
Yes, what they're doing around Bitcoin, etc. And then I'd like to pivot to what the U.S. is going to do around regulation.
Well, it would appear that they don't love cryptocurrency.
It appears
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's subtle, but yeah, you're hinting in that direction. I can't speak to exactly why they don't like it that much, but people can speculate for various reasons. China, by the way, is having some significant electricity generation issues.
Yeah.
So, actually, I think part of it may actually be due to electricity shortages in many parts of China. So, a lot of South China right now is having random power outages because the power demand is higher than expected. Crypto mining might be playing a role in that. I'm not sure.
This is further than that.
It is further than that. Well, I suppose cryptocurrency is fundamentally aimed at reducing the power of a centralized government.
Yes, it is.
And that they don't like that.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Okay. So what do you think is going to happen? Because this
I mean, maybe the audience has other
the
ideas.
shares went up. It didn't matter after they announced this. They went down and they went up. You can change the shares of cryptocurrency more than China can.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
If it goes up, I suppose it is. I mean, I think there's always long-term role for crypto, really people should think of any kind of money system, whether it's a store of value or currency, as really a form of information. If you apply information theory to money, whether it's cryptocurrency or some other form, and view it in terms of how good is it at sort of bandwidth, latency, jitter, dropping packets, which is, you could say, like fraud is like losing packets or something on the network, its overall security, then I think a lot of these things just make a lot of sense in that regard. Like any form of money has no power in and of itself except as an exchange of value between people for goods or services, or to translate things in time, like a loan.
So is this the right thing for governments to do, to take control of it? Is it possible?
It is not possible to, I think, destroy crypto, but it is possible for governments to slow down its advancement.
So what should the U.S. government do? We had Gary Gensler on earlier, SEC chairman. He was calling it the Wild West of finance. What should they do, if anything?
I would say do nothing.
Okay, they're not saying that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just let it fly.
Because?
Well, what do you think governments can do?
I think they can, like you said, they can ruin it. I don't think they can just slow it down. I think they can stop it. I don't think they can control it. And therefore, they may want to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm some, massive cryptocurrency expert. I think there's some value to cryptocurrency. I don't think it's like the second coming of the Messiah, which some people seem to think. It will hopefully reduce the error and latency in the money system, the legacy money systems, and reduce governments have a habit of editing the money database, which is like probably some ancient mainframe somewhere in Virginia running COBOL, FY. It's kind of bleak to think about that. When governments can't keep the hand out of the cookie jar and edit the money database, there's probably some value to that.
Okay, so what are you're saying you're not an expert, but you spend a lot of time tweeting about it. Now, you tweet about a lot of things. We'll get to that in a minute. But why is that? Why that's true? Why is that of interest to you, crypto? Because you become, I wouldn't say the crypto messiah, but you're close.
Crypto messiah.
That's going to be a tweet.
Oh no. Well, I mean, I mostly don't tweet about crypto. This is a minority of small number of tweets.
Okay.
So, I do know a lot about the money system and payments and how it actually works, as opposed to, say, how economists think it works. On a practical basis, just how money is just basically the monetary system is a series of heterogeneous databases that are not real time, with the exception of PayPal and a few others, and to reconcile on a batch basis. That may take anywhere from 24 hours to several days. So it's slow. That's just a lot of latency and jitter, and the ACH system has basically no security. And this has just been it was that way when PayPal started in '99, and it's still that way 22 years later.
So it needs reform.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to move on to when China. I want to stick with China for a second. You are operating there, selling there. What do you make of what they're doing to the tech entrepreneurs there, or the tech moguls?
Where is Jack Ma?
Where is Jack Ma? Do you know?
No, I was curious.
You have some means to find out, I'm guessing.
Maybe. I don't know. I think there are some changes afoot in China. I think part of this may be actually COVID related, in the sense that it's been quite difficult to have in-person meetings in China, and China really runs, the whole system is set up to run on the basis of in-person meetings. And the absence of these meetings for the past 18 months, I think, has probably led to things being worse than they would be if there were more in-person meetings.
Okay.
So I think as COVID lifts and the in-person meetings return, I think I think probably there will be an increase in the sort of trust level, and I think things will probably start heading in a more positive direction.
The trust level between tech and the government.
Yeah, both internally within China and with respect to people from the U.S. and other countries going and visiting and meeting with officials in the Chinese government. Now, it's just China is very much set up to work with in-person meetings, and so COVID, I think, has impeded that. So I think things will improve, most likely, as the in-person meetings resume.
So they did these antitrust actions because they couldn't say hello.
I think not all of it can be ascribed to that, but it's some of it can be. We'll see. I suspect things will improve next year because of just more interaction.
Are you nervous about what you're doing there? It's a big market for you. You operate there.
Yeah, we've got a big factory in Shanghai, which is doing very well. The Tesla China team is doing great work, and we do well with selling in the Chinese market, as well as producing cars for China and for export to Europe. So overall, things are going pretty well, frankly.
You're not worried about U.S.-China relations?
I don't. It's not. No, not especially right now.
Not especially. All right. So let's talk about space. You had a recent space. You sent up a bunch of civilians into space. You did not send yourself up.
No, I've not sent myself up. I suppose I will at some point. But my goal is not to send myself up. My goal is to open up space for humanity and ultimately set us on a path to becoming a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species.
Yes. So you don't want to go up yourself?
It's neither here nor there. I will go at some point.
What do you think of the other efforts to go to suborbital?
Suborbital is a step in the direction of orbit, but but just to put things into perspective, you need about 100 times more energy to get to orbit versus suborbit. And then to get back from orbit, you need to burn off that energy. So you need a like heavy-duty heat shield because you're coming in like a meteor.
Yes.
So like orbit is roughly 2 orders of magnitude more difficult than suborbit. But it's still, good to do something in space.
What did you think watching those, both Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos doing that?
I thought it was cool that they're spending money on the advancement of space. I think humanity wants to be, should want to be a spacefaring civilization and out there among the stars. And I think we really want, all these things that we see in science fiction movies and books, we want those to be like real one day, not always fiction.
Right.
So I think it's good that people are spending their money advancing space technology.
So last time we talked, we didn't talk a lot about space. We talked about a whole bunch. We talked about meat flaps, which was Elon's word for speaking.
Yeah.
We're flapping our...
Yeah. Slow tonal wheezing.
Yes, that's right. When I sound like it right now.
That's what we sound like to a computer.
Right.
Like whale sound, slow down.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about space. So let's talk a little bit about where you think you've advanced with what you're doing. Because I think you're probably the most fast forward of all these efforts.
Yeah, so with respect to SpaceX, let's see. There's two, besides orbital human spaceflight and providing transport for NASA of astronauts and cargo to and from the space station, which we've been doing for a while now, over a decade. We have something called Starlink, which is a global internet system, and this is, I think, going to have some profound positive effects on the world because Starlink is really designed to serve the least served.
You have 1,300 satellites up right now, is that correct?
1,500.
And you want to put 30,000.
Yeah.
We'll get to space pollution in a minute, but explain what were the reasons for it.
Yeah, so in order to provide high bandwidth, low latency connectivity to a large number of people, you need a lot of satellites, and they need to be at low Earth orbit so that latency is low. The problem with satellites that are at geostationary orbit is that they are around 36,000 kilometers, whereas we are at 550 kilometers. So gigantic difference in latency. For the Starlink system, you could play like a competitive video game that's latency dependent and still be able to play it with Starlink. It's like browsing a terrestrial system essentially. But Starlink is really, just to be clear, not a threat to 5G or terrestrial fiber or anything like that. But it's very well suited to low to medium density regions of the Earth, places where it is too expensive to trench fiber or put 5G cellular base stations, and so it's really a good. It kind of takes care of the people that just didn't get internet, or either the internet's too slow or too expensive, or they just don't have it at all. It's very well suited, a space-based system for serving like the least served, maybe 5% or something like that.
How big a part of your space business is it from your perspective?
I mean, I think it's quite significant in that the launch side of things, just launching other people's satellites and serving the space station, probably tops out around $3 or $4 billion a year of revenue. Whereas if we can get to say 3% of global internet traffic, then that's roughly $1 trillion a year business. Then we can increase our revenue by an order of magnitude to more like 30 billion or something like that. And and then we can use the proceeds from that to develop the rocket technology necessary to get humanity to Mars and to the moon and elsewhere in the solar system. So so I think Starlink is good in and of itself for providing, like I said, providing internet access to the least served in the world. I think it's a fundamentally good thing in that respect. And also offering a little bit of competition in the cities, although Starlink can really maybe serve less than 5% of people in a city. It's just because of the way the spot beams from space are very big. So anyway, it's a very nice complement and a necessary complement to 5G and fiber. And like I said, it'll provide a revenue stream for us to develop our next generation rocket, which is Starship. With Starship, we're trying to achieve a fundamental breakthrough that is the holy grail of rocketry. That is to have a fully reusable orbital rocket. This is extremely fundamental. With Falcon 9, we have a mostly reusable rocket.
Which you recently proved it landed, correct?
We've been landing for quite a while now, but so we in fact, a number of our boosters are on their 10th reflight. So we've shown that reusing the boost stage can be done, and that it is economically sensible to do so.
What's the difference in price
between Falcon 9 and competitors?
When using a reusable rocket?
Oh yeah, sure. It's really gigantic. With Falcon 9, we still have to lose the upper stage, and you can think of each stage being like the equivalent of a jet airplane. So the boost stage is like the big jet airplane. Upper stage is the small jet airplane. We still throw away the small jet airplane every time. So Falcon 9 is able to be the most competitive rocket in the world because we recover the boost stage and the fairing. But still, our best case marginal cost of launch, not taking into account overhead allocation, is about $15 million
per launch.
Yeah, for 15 tons to orbit. Which is quite big. Like SpaceX, over the last year or so, has delivered about, I think, roughly 2/3 of all payload to orbit of Earth. And most of the remaining third is China, and then everyone else is kind of they're in the miscellaneous. But we still have it's still $15 million because of mostly because
What's the cost differential between that and what you're aiming for?
Yeah, so basically Falcon 9 is effectively about half to a third the cost of alternatives because of the reuse of the boost stage. With Starship, we should be able to get to the point where it's maybe 1% the cost of an expendable system.
So that would just be $1 million, right?
Yeah, the marginal cost of launch, we think, can be it could be potentially under $1 million.
So is anybody
for
close?
over 100 tons to orbit.
100 more than 15. You said 15.
Yes, 100 tons likely, and with refinement of the design, probably 150 tons. So essentially, it would be 10 times the payload of Falcon 9 for 15 times lower cost. So
when is that happening?
100-fold better. It's really profound. Essentially, with Starship, it is possible to make the economics close for creating a self-sustaining city on Mars and a base on the moon for those who want to go there. So it's really very, very profound development, and that's what I'm spending most of my time on, is driving the development of Starship.
Starship, so you can go to Mars, or you want civilization on Mars?
Civilization on Mars.
So what's first, the moon base or moon base first, correct?
I mean, the moon is close, so we might as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might as well.
It's practically right there,
Excuse me. So you got a contract with the Defense Department to do a lunar lander,
From NASA.
From NASA, which is being disputed by Jeff Bezos.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I think I've expressed my thoughts on that front. I think you should put more of his energy into getting to orbit than lawsuits. You cannot sue your way to the moon. Okay. You know how good your lawyers are.
Yeah. So why isn't he doing that?
I don't know.
I also like to make fun of his rocket.
I
Y'all make fun of each other's rockets.
I think it does have, it could be a different shape, potentially.
Could you explain from a technological point of view why it's that shape?
Well, if you are only going to doing suborbital, then your rocket can be sort of shorter, yes.
So, have you called him and said, cut the shit, get bigger, or what?
I have encouraged him to emphasize getting to orbit, yes.
You talk to him?
Not verbally.
What is it, mind meld or
No,
what?
just,
Tweet at him.
Yeah,
Tweet at him.
yeah, exactly. Subtweet, if you will.
Subtweet. So, what subtweet? You do subtweet him. So what are you going to do with the lunar lander? And how do you get the moon base there?
Yeah, so Starship is designed essentially as a general purpose transport system to anywhere in the solar system because it is a propulsive lander. And with a propulsive lander, you can land anywhere that's got a solid surface. And it's also designed for orbital refilling. So you can get the Starship to orbit and then send tanker flights to refill it so that it has tremendous delta velocity. Basically, it can go very far from Earth orbit because you can refill propellant.
The moon base is important because?
Well, I think the moon base, certainly there's like a lot we could learn scientifically if we had a proper laboratory on the moon about the nature of the universe and, where we all came from and the early history of Earth and that kind of thing. Yeah, we have a science station in Antarctica and we're still learning a lot from, our activities in Antarctica, and I think we could learn even more on the moon. So there's a lot of value, I think, to having and I think it'd be just freaking cool. I mean, come on, it's like we gotta, humanity. You gotta represent here for humanity. Just have a base on the moon. But I think everyone would be like, yeah, hell yeah, we got a base on the moon. That's cool.
Yeah. For tourism, what do you think?
No, so with the science. I think a lot could be learned if you've got a sort of a science station on the moon, like we've got a science station in Antarctica and many other places. I think there is value that shouldn't be denigrated for people who want to experience going to orbit or going to the moon. When they do so, I think to some degree vicariously we all go with them. When in the Apollo program, when they landed on the moon, it was just a handful of individuals on the moon, but we all went with them vicariously. Humanity went with them. Like if you did a poll of people on Earth and said, "Tell me, what do you think is humanity's greatest achievement of maybe ever?" It's like landing on the moon. And that's inspiring, I think, to kids everywhere.
So you just sent up 4 civilians. Is that space tourism you're doing? And by the way, you have to be kind of rich to do it. Like from what I understand, I cannot afford to go to the moon, for example.
Yeah, I think it's got a bit more gravitas than metaphorically, figuratively, and literally more gravitas than simply tourism. It's not like going to Disneyland. It's like It's more profound than that. So sometimes people use tourism in a sort of a negative way, but I think, especially with the Inspiration flight, I think they really, they filmed the whole thing in real time. They shared their experiences with the world. It was a really cool group of people. I recommend watching the Netflix show Countdown.
Mark Benioff talked about it.
It's awesome. I didn't have anything to do with it, and the production value on the Netflix Countdown documentary is amazing. And you learn about the backstory of the people, and it's actually super.
Tourism. You don't like it. This is for science and for saving humanity, presumably.
Yeah, I think tourism. I think that there's an element of tourism to it, but I think there's also the technology is expensive at first. You can't just, when you're trying to develop brand new technology, it doesn't instantly become cheap and affordable. And think of like cell phones, and the early cell phones were really expensive and sucked.
Yeah.
Frankly, you think of like Wall Street One, where he's walking down the beach with the shoebox size cell phone on it, talking to this. And so just like really expensive, and the tech wasn't that great. But if some number of people didn't pay for the expensive cell phones, there would not be the inexpensive cell phones that everyone can afford.
So we should thank billionaires for going into space.
It doesn't have to be top of your thank you list, but it's not. I'm just saying that when there's new technology, it is necessarily expensive until you can refine the design and you can scale things up, and then you can make it more affordable. It's a common misconception that there's some new technology, especially if it's a physical object, that you can just suddenly make it cheap and available. But you have to have many design iterations, and you got to scale up the production and get economies of scale. Like we had this argument against Tesla for a long time, because people would say like, well, why are you building this Tesla Roadster back in the day? It's basically, it's an expensive toy sports car for rich people. And we're like, yes, it is. But there's no way we could build an affordable electric car as our first car. We just didn't have the capital, we didn't have the experience, and we needed to go through several technology iterations in order to get to something like the Model 3.
Right.
I actually wrote a blog about this because I knew people would be like, why are you making sports cars for rich people, as though we thought there was somehow a shortage of sports cars for rich people. We're obviously not. But you just gotta figure out the technology. You gotta go through multiple design. Like how do you make something mass market and affordable? Many design iterations, many different versions of the technology. A lot of hard work, and then you've got to scale up the production rate so you get economies of scale. And those two things are what make any given technology available to the public. And basically every technology that we take for granted today has gone through that
So the idea
evolution.
of getting to Mars will be affordable someday?
Yes, absolutely. It has to be. In order for Mars to be a self-sustaining civilization, it has to be affordable.
When you say that,
Enough people need to go,
why do you want people to go when you just keep saying that? Because you're worried about this planet? Or you're just betting the odds are we'll either blow it up or it'll be the day after tomorrow movie?
No, I think it's really, if you sort of look, just sort of stand back, if we just step away from our sort of internecine squabbles and say, let's look at the big picture here. What set of actions can we take that maximize the probability that the future is going to be good for civilization and for consciousness? And I think we should regard consciousness on Earth as delicate, not just fragile. What sort of actions can we do to ensure that it continues and that the scope and scale of consciousness expands? And I'm in favor of expansion because, if we want to understand what the universe is about and what's the meaning of life, and we need to get out there and find out. And the more we expand the scope and scale of consciousness, the better we will be able to understand what questions to ask about the answer that is the universe.
So when you get a lot of criticism, say, about Starlink, space pollution, you see a lot of stories about space pollution. Why is Elon putting so many astronomers get mad at you? Or with the rockets, so that you have these big defense contracts that you're doing, correct? First time someone's broken into the area. How do you meet those criticisms? This is just small potatoes?
Well, first of all, with respect to the astronomers, we are in constant dialogue with the leading astronomers of the world, and taking great pains to ensure that our satellites do not interfere with their telescopes. And I believe at this point they are satisfied that they will not. Like I said, we're taking great pains to ensure that the satellites do not reflect or otherwise interfere with the telescopes, including the most sensitive telescopes. So, there may be a few sort of amateur astronomers who aren't happy, but the professional ones are satisfied that we're taking reasonable steps to ensure that we are not standing in the way of science, and nor would we ever want to. And we're also looking at launching some new telescopes using Starship, because Starship is a much bigger vehicle. We can launch satellites that have 10 times the resolution of the Hubble, which would be great for science. In fact, there's an exciting program working with Sol Perlmutter at Berkeley on a big new space satellite, a space telescope, I should say. And I think we'll do more of those. So I think at the end of the day, Starship and SpaceX are going to do a lot to advance our understanding of astrophysics and astronomy.
You still want to, you said to me a couple times ago we talked, you want to die on Mars. You still want to die on Mars. Just not on landing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not an impact.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that would be spectacular.
Yes, but you wouldn't get to enjoy it much, just a second or so.
Talking about a narrative for the rest of it.
Yeah, no, I was just asked, do you want to die on Mars? And I was like, well, I suppose if you're going to pick Earth or Mars, it'd be cool to be born on Earth and die on Mars. I'm not like trying to make a beeline to Mars and just dive or something. It's just that you got to pick one. You're going to die somewhere. Sure, Mars.
I've interviewed a lot of I guess they're biologists. They're worried about, essentially they said you have to be under the Earth, a couple hundred feet.
No.
You get short.
Definitely not a couple, not a couple hundred. They just need.
I asked him about the particular recent tweet you did about, he did one great tweet about time, saying time is the currency, which I thought was beautiful.
Time is the ultimate currency, yes. No matter what resources you have, you can't wind back the clock.
It's true.
Yeah.
No matter how rich you are.
Yeah.
But then you did the Biden tweet. Can you explain that one?
Oh, Biden held this EV summit. Didn't invite Tesla. Invited GM, Ford, Chrysler, and UAW. An EV summit on the White House. Didn't mention Tesla once, and praised GM and Ford for leading the EV revolution.
So you were pissed.
Does this sound maybe a little biased or something? And then just it's not the friendliest administration. Seems to be controlled by the unions, as far as I can tell.
So, are you waiting to get Trump back?
No.
Who would you like to be president besides yourself?
I would not want to be president at all. Sounds like no fun being president.